Welcome to the Unusual Suspects. We are here at AmFest 2024, Phoenix, Arizona, part of Turning Point USA. And we are lucky enough to be joined by someone who has a very, very large digital footprint and a very, very large influence on a lot of people across this country. 3.23 million subscribers on YouTube, over 1 million followers on Instagram, 500,000 followers on Facebook, over 750,000 followers on X, and over 150,000 followers on TikTok. You may know him as Officer Tatum. Brandon Tatum joining us today. Sir, thank you so much for making the time to join us here at AmFest 2024. How has your experience been? You're a Turning Point ambassador, right? You work with Turning Point. What has your experience has been being at this great convention this weekend so far?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on, man. It's my pleasure. It's been a wonderful experience. It's good that Donald Trump won.
Yeah.
Because if he didn't, I don't think we would all be this happy. But it's been a good experience. It's good seeing patriots, like-minded people from all over the country coming and celebrating conservatism. Turning Point USA always puts on a show, man. I don't think anybody in the country do it better than Turning Point. All the best speakers, all the best vendors, you name it, this is the place to be. And I've had an incredible time. I come every year, and it's fun.
You've grown tremendously online. 5.5 million followers on a conservative end of people that you have influence and reach over. When did your foray into the content creation game start? And what are some of the troubles that you have experienced being on the conservative side of content creation?
Oh, that's a great question. I never thought about being a content creator. I never thought about doing any of this. I was a police officer, and I loved my job. I loved what I did. I felt like a hero doing it. Even though I didn't make any money, it still was something that was gratifying, and I felt like God had called me to do it. One day, I just decided to go to a Trump rally after waking up to the realities of what the Democrat Party stood for. So, I went to a Trump rally just to see what it was, and I ended up having a really good time. Like I said, I never had a social media. I never really participated in that. I just thought that I'd just make a video commenting about my experience at the Trump rally. I went to sleep and it went viral. And then I realized, and I've always been an opinionated person, but I realized maybe I should express my opinions more on social media. There was no money involved. I didn't make any money, didn't know how to make any money doing it. I just did it because I like reacting to certain things and giving my expressed opinion. And that continued to grow over time. And in 2017, which was about a year after me starting, just making a few videos here and there after work, I'd made a video about Colin Kaepernick. And of course, I think he's a complete idiot, and he should have never knelt for the national anthem and disrespect the men and women that serve. So I made a video, a rant. I was going off in my car, I literally in the garage with no AC on, just yelling at the camera. And that went mega viral. It had 70 million views.
Wow.
And that's what kind of led me into this career, because a company in Anthem, Arizona offered me a position. And I said, let me give it a try. I can always go back to being a cop. Let me take a year off, try this social media stuff and see where it lands me. And then the rest is history.
That's an incredibly, how long were you a police officer prior to walking away?
About 6.5 years.
So you have a career, and you've established a career. You've spent 6.5 years in that career, and you go, you know what, let me try and do this instead. That's an incredibly brave move to make. What was the defining moment that made you wake up? You say you woke up around 2014, 2015? What made you wake up to the lies about, and I guess the narrative that the left portrays about Donald Trump and conservatives as a whole?
Well, I would say it was a long time brewing, right? Because I grew up, in a black community, and if you're black, you're a Democrat. That's it. Republicans are racist white people. And so that's the narrative that I grew up with. And also, we didn't have a lot of engagement with white people, so we had an opinion that white people hated us.
Where did you grow up?
In Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay.
So we had an opinion that white people hated us. But when I got to college, I realized that, wait a minute, I don't have any problems with white people. There has never been an altercation that I've had. There's no N-word thrown out. I just knew I would be discriminated against because that's the mindset that I had going into a university full of white people in Tucson, Arizona. But it began to open my mind, because I'm like, well, wait a minute, maybe I've been lied to. Maybe the world isn't as racist as we've been told. And then I got saved in 2008, baptized, filled with the Holy Spirit at Emmanuel Grace Apostolic Church, a little bitty church with a lot of power. And that changed my perspective on how I looked at other people, because I still had this tendency in my mind to believe in discrimination and all this. And then when I got saved, I said, you know what, we're all God's people. And I don't look at people based on the color of their skin or any of that crap. I look at people based on, them being the children of God. That helped me move in a different direction. Yet I was still a Democrat. Then I became a police officer. Everybody on the police department, they're conservative. So everybody would challenge me. Almost all the guys I knew would challenge me and say, you know what, I don't think you're a Democrat. What do you stand for? I stand for God. I stand for freedom, free speech, you name it. That's what I stand for. They like, that's not the platform of the Democrat Party. And I still didn't internalize it. I voted for Barack Obama his second term.
I did twice by accident. I'm sorry, and I admit now that I did it. But like you, I was a lifelong Democrat, and it really took me. I didn't wake up until later on. It was COVID for me that I started looking around and going, the narrative that I'm being told is not the narrative that I see. And then it made me start to go into this country isn't as divided as I was told it was, and people aren't as bad as I was led to believe they are. And so I actually have a lot more in common with people that are different from me than we have differences.
Yes.
So you obviously, your career in law enforcement, it's got to be difficult for somebody that has friends that are probably still in the police, someone who believed in law enforcement, to see the way that the media has portrayed police as bad people. It's very odd when you look at how the Defund the Police movement, how white cops are racist. How do you, as a black man, view law enforcement now that you've been removed from law enforcement for 6 or 7 years?
And it's very sad that people are so confused about what police officers actually do. Yeah. It's very sad that the media and, some of these politicians portray police officers as thugs and racists. And it's very sad. I think it's more sad and angering than anything else, because I know what it takes to be a police officer. I've been around cops of all races, backgrounds, you name it. I've talked to guys. I patrol with my life on the line. I know that police officers aren't worried about your race when they go to a call for service. And to see it being portrayed that way, it makes me upset, but it also makes me sad, because we have an incredible opportunity as people in America to have something to appreciate. And I believe law enforcement is one of those things that we built in America that we can all appreciate, love, and have respect for. And if it was true that cops were doing those things, I would be the first one to scream from the mountaintop. But it is so unfounded that I think these people should be ashamed of themselves for what they've done to the police department, with the police career.
Look, and I'll go to you, Brandon, then Humberto. Yeah. There's a few bad apples in every bunch, right? There's never going to be an industry in which everybody is completely uncorruptible. Unfortunately, money does corrupt, and people are able to be corrupted. That doesn't mean that the entire industry is corrupted. So, and look, it's easy for me. I'm a white guy. I grew up on a small island town in New Jersey. I never had a bad interaction with police. It's easy for me to believe in the police. It's not as easy from somebody that's in the inner city that's had experiences with the police to also have that same mindset. But you often find that there are a lot of people within the inner city that haven't had those experiences. The only thing that the media actually highlights in trying to divide and be divisive are the extreme examples of people that are the bad apples. They never cover the stories of the good apples who day to day go out and patrol and put their life on the line to protect everybody. They only highlight the stories in which if it bleeds, it leads.
Well, let me say, if people are going to be honest, most people in the inner city communities don't have bad experiences with police officers. You only have bad experiences with police officers when you're cutting up. They're not coming to your house kicking down your door because you're black. You're selling drugs, you're running with guns. The first time you got caught, even though you've been committing crimes for a very long time. How do you know that, Mr. Tatum? I got people in my family doing life in prison for stuff that they did. It wasn't a white boogeyman hunting them down with a patrol car. It was the fact that you got to be accountable to the things that you do. My only interactions with police was when I was cutting up. When I was 8 years old, smoking marijuana in a vacant house, I got arrested for that. When I was speeding on the freeway, me and my brother going across the freeway like this, thinking we cool in the middle of the night, cop caught us. Those are the interactions. So to be quite honest, it's not a unique experience for black people to interact with police in a negative way. It's a unique experience for criminals. If you're committing crimes, you're going to interact with police more often. And if you're resisting arrest and you're not listening to what they tell you to do, you might get beat up and shot. That's just the way it is. I have never been shot. I have never had a really bad interaction with a police officer. Why? Because when I get pulled over, I'm intelligent enough and wise enough to understand that I was wrong. And I just listen to what the man got to say because he has the badge and authority. And if I got a problem with him, I'll report him to the police department at another time. But most of these interactions that we see in the public are people acting a fool. That's how they end up having a bad experience with cops.
Our
So we
guest
always
today,
talk about like who the heroes are in society and how important that is in shaping culture and everything. What was your reaction to how the media covered Daniel Penny and how BLM and everything's reacting to that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be smoking crack to think that BLM is still relevant and that they have anything positive to say and that they're making a positive effect. Daniel Penny, the framing of Daniel Penny ticked me off more than just about anybody else. The man honorably served this country. You have a fool that gets on to the transit system and he's threatening to kill people.
Yeah.
He's not being loud like BLM activists are saying. Man, I would be against Daniel Penny if the guy was just being loud and he attacked him. The man is crazy. He was, schizophrenic. He was high on K2 spice. And I've dealt with people that are high on synthetic marijuana. They're crazy. He throws his jacket at somebody, says, I'm gonna start killing people. I don't care about dying. I don't care about going to jail. What do you expect a man with courage to do that have served this country with his life? He's gonna protect innocent people. And that's what he did. And the media portrayed him that way because he's white. If it was a black on black, we wouldn't hear about it.
Yep.
If it was a black man choking out a white man, we wouldn't hear about it. Since it was a white guy and a black thug, and I call him a thug, 41 arrests. The guy beat up women on the transit system before that. And if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't even hear about the story.
when you do you think we're at the point where enough of America has woken up to that tactic of placating race and putting one person against another for it to not work? Because it didn't work in the Daniel Penny case. They tried to convict him in the court of public opinion, and it didn't work. You see record amount of black young men coming out and voting for Donald Trump. You see a record amount of young Hispanic men coming out and voting for Donald Trump. This narrative that Donald Trump is the evil, racist, white boogeyman that you mentioned before, and all white people are evil and all black people are violent, it's not working. Do you think enough Americans have woken up to the dividing tactics that the mainstream media uses that it's no longer effective?
I agree. I do think so. I think a lot of people are waking up. We saw in this election. This election wasn't supposed to go this way. When you have framed the president of the United States, the candidate Donald Trump, and now he's the president, but when you framed him as Hitler, that he's a part of a new Nazi party, that he's a felon, they tried to arrest him, they tried to kill him, they tried to destroy his reputation, said he's a rapist. When you put all of that on the table, and they said he committed an insurrection or something, when you put all of that on the table, it shouldn't have happened for him to get elected. However, the people can see through the bull crap. These people are stupid, and we know it. We're not gonna get tricked anymore. We can see in plain sight because of platforms like this and other alternative media sources where people can go on and watch and see what he actually said and see what he's actually doing. And we can see what they're actually doing, and people are fed up with it. But I tell you what, unfortunately, I think people are still gullible emotionally, but when it comes to your pocketbook, people begin to change their mind. Because the economy is so bad, because people cannot afford groceries and it's getting out of control, that's what made people really change their vote. And I wish that people would change their vote not only because of those reasons, also because they're getting tricked emotionally by the Democrat Party.
Well, when you mention people with their pocketbooks and you mentioned Black Lives Matter no longer being relevant, look at how much the donations to Black Lives Matter has declined. They went from getting $90 million in 2020 to in 2022 just getting $9 million. And that's even too much at $9 million, but that's a tenth of what they were getting before. So you can see that people's public opinion is changing through their pocketbooks, like you mentioned. If you're just joining us, we have Officer Tatum on the program today. You can find him on all socials, Officer Tatum. Humberto, what's your question for our guest?
I want to go back to law enforcement. I think, the damage we saw after the Summer of Love, it was, especially in the media side of things. Do you think they need to make a comeback? What can President Trump do to help them make a comeback? Is there any plans, education? How are we going to get people to join back the force? A lot of them quit during COVID. What can we do in the next 4 years to, get police and law enforcement back to what it used to be?
I think that we first have to change the narrative. And I think from the White House, from the Oval Office, if you have the President of the United States saying that police officers are good, exposing the good things that they do, having the support from the president goes a long way. And then we also have to focus on funding police departments to make sure that they can adequately pay their officers and they can get adequate enough training that they produce good product. The problem that we're going to see, and I hope that we can turn it around sooner than later, but the problem that we have experienced is that when you don't fund police, you demonize police. They're not proactive. Therefore, the crime is going out of control. And then you won't get good people like myself when I started. I really wanted to change my community and make a difference. And I was willing to put my life on the line because I know I would be protected in the process. If you want to get those good people to join the police department, you got to pay them something. And then you also have to show them a level of respect. Qualified immunity is a good start for Donald Trump to mention, because that speaks loudly that the federal government will protect you if you're doing the right thing. Yeah. And I want people to understand qualified immunity isn't that you absolve from crime. If you commit a crime, you're going to jail. Okay, so
everyone.
But qualified immunity is that you're acting in good faith according to the policies and laws that are in place, and you will not be sued civilly on the back end because some BLM activists think that you killed a cousin after he had shot up a club or something. So I think that Donald Trump's rhetoric is a good start.
He needs to do a better job with that messaging, because a lot of people took that as they would just have blanket immunity for anything. But I agree with what you're saying, but he didn't phrase it like that. So I think he could do a better job phrasing it that way.
I agree with you. I think that when he does say qualified immunity at an event, he does need to articulate what does that mean? What's the difference between absolute immunity, qualified immunity? And he needs to explain what other public officials have qualified immunity, because police officers aren't the only ones that have immunity. Exactly. Also, judges have immunity and other people that are in government positions. So if he explained it thoroughly, I think people who want to get it will get it. The other people, they know what qualified immunity is. They just want to trick the public into hating police officers.
May I say, I know we have to wrap. I have one final question for you. You started as a police officer and you wanted to change your community. You made the pivot into content creation, and instead of just like changing your community, I really believe voices like yours are what helped Donald Trump get elected, and you helped change a nation. So you went from changing your community to changing a country, and I applaud you for that. What is your optimism going into 2025? We are 30 days away from Inauguration Day. What is your outlook, and how bright do you think the future is with President Trump taking back the office in 2025?
Well, first of all, I think I need to make this very clear. The success that you see me have, all of the things and accolades that I get is because of God.
Amen.
God put me on the path to do what I'm doing. And it was a sacrifice to lead the police department. I had a pension and everything. And I took a chance on it because I believe God wanted something bigger and wanted me to have more influence. And I did that. So God gets all the credit for everything that I have done, that I'm doing now, and that I will do. I'm optimistic because I have faith in God. And I know God going to take care of us, especially if we're faithful. God is going to do the right thing. And I want to make this clear, and I'm probably going to say it on the stage later, is that we can't forget that God is in control all the time. He's not in control when we get what we want or we don't get what we want. Because Joe Biden, I believe God was in control when Joe Biden got in office. What did God do with that? He had to challenge us to wake up and stop being lazy and start really looking at facts and understanding who's the enemy in this country. We wouldn't have been this enthusiastic about Donald Trump if it had not been for us getting exposed to a terrible administration, ruining America, ruining the economy. So I'm optimistic that God is going to take care of us. Donald Trump I think, was appointed by God in a time such as this to do good work. And we all have to do our part. And if we do it, we're going to have the greatest success possible. The Bible says we're in the last days, so we can't expect for this thing to be glorious for a long period of time, but we can do the best we can with what we have right now if we have our faith in God.
As a person who, listen, I've had, and a round of applause.
Right, amen.
As somebody who has never, I'll be honest, I've had my own issues with religion and I've tried. I am now feeling more optimistic, not just in our country, but that there is a higher power because of being around powerful people like yourself and hearing the influence that a higher power has made in their lives and watching the impact that higher power has allowed them to reach others. So for the work that you have done, thank you. Congratulations on all of your successes. Please, if you are not following Officer Tatum on all socials, go find him today. Support this man just like he has supported all of us and supported this country. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today. And to you watching at home, Unusual Suspect fans, please, if you haven't done so already, make sure you like and subscribe and continue to watch us, continue to watch Brandon Tatum, and continue to support amazing companies and people like Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. For Brandon, Humberto, and Officer Tatum, I'm Rob Gargiulo. Thank you for joining us today, and we will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
So if you like this clip, click right here. And if you want to see more like it, click right here. Stay angry, Patriots.